話って何？
おばちゃんに私のためにその英会話の教室を取ってほしい。
英会話？
We're just gonna have fun, all right? It's a fun class. Looks like you need a hug. Hmm? Here.
とっても変わった学校ね。
John is he's a guy who's in search of himself, I guess. He doesn't know who he is at the beginning of this film. He's been running away from his family.
Hi, John.
Oh my God, Lucy!
He's been living in Japan and acting as a English teacher, but he's not really teaching any English for the most part. He has no credentials anyway, so he's kind of a charlatan. But basically, he's just trying to give himself some space from his own reality, and the film kind of brings him into focus with himself. It forces him to look in the mirror for the first time. I chose the film specifically because I think she's a really talented director. You can tell when you see her short and when you read the script and when you speak to her how intelligent she is and how her vision is so personal and yet so unique. And I guess personal and unique go together, but not necessarily always. Sometimes people tell personal stories in a very kind of simple way, but she has a tonal perspective that's different than most people's, and I really appreciated that mixture of comedy and drama, or comedy and tragedy.
ちゃん先生、今日やめた。
美香ちゃん電話番号変えた？電話つながらないから。
あの子アメリカに行くのよ。
もう一つあるんだけど、私ロサンゼルス行ってきます。
だったら私も行くわ。
I mean, I've mostly done independent films. I think the split is something like I've done 20% Hollywood films and 80% independent films. I just am drawn to subject matter that's a little bit more personal, and I guess I'm not as drawn to the big Hollywood machine type. I can identify with the I guess the instinct to run away from your problems, but I would not want to be John. And I don't identify with the way that he lives his life. Like, the choices that he makes are not long term. I've always been an urban person. More lately, I've become interested in living in the country. Like, I'm becoming more interested in nature. But I've always been an urban person. I lived in New York for 20 years. Before that, I grew up in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. Not a huge urban environment, but about 2.5 million people. New York, obviously a huge metropolis, and now we live between London and Los Angeles, so I've always lived in cities. So I identify with the feeling of loneliness amongst other people, but that's only because I've always been amongst other people and have felt loneliness. You know what I mean?